Thank you, Madam Mayor. As WA Day approaches, may we reflect and celebrate all the great things about our people, our lifestyle, our culture, our potential and our freedoms. And in that reflection, say a prayer and give thanks for our Indigenous community in this week of reconciliation. And also bless our Defence Force personnel who courageously gave their lives in defence of those freedoms, who are not here to celebrate WA Day with us, but will live forever in our hearts and memories. Amen.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Before we begin, I will acknowledge that we are meeting on the traditional lands of the Whadjuk Noongar people and pay our respects to their elders, both past and present. It is now 7:03. I declare the meeting open. Announcement of visitors. There are some visitors to the gallery this evening. Welcome to the police cadets as well as Sharon Kent. Thank you for coming along. I hope you enjoy the evening. Where is Sharon? She's hiding down the back there. Hi, Sharon. So welcome. Just read the disclaimer. Members of the public are cautioned against taking any action on council decisions on items in which they may have an interest until such time as they have seen a copy of the minutes of the meeting or have been advised in writing by city staff. Live streaming, please note all council meetings are digitally recorded and live streamed on the city's YouTube channel, except for confidential agenda items, during which time the live stream will be temporarily suspended. Okay, moving on. We have a record of attendance. Everybody is here this evening. That's great. Are there any disclosures of interest, councillors? No. Announcements by presiding member, that would be me. So last week we had the art exhibition, and just want to congratulate Glenda and the team for fantastic art exhibition, and also to congratulate all of the winners. The overall winner being Ariel Katzer with her I Do See You portrait. And also to thank the Maddington Central for their support of that event. So thank you very much. We also had our official opening of Yes on Wednesday the 14th of May, which was well attended and fantastic to see the community come out and to support that opening. It was an awesome event, so congratulations to everyone involved in that, including Martin's team the Director for Infrastructure's team for delivering it. I guess if we open another Yes, we're just going to need some more sausages on the night because they definitely sold out. Also, I was invited to attend an event at the Serbian Centre in Maddington on Friday night just gone, where they had an international singer from Serbia there, which was really well received by the community. But just so you all know, the Serbian Centre has undergone a massive makeover. They did it all in 23 days, they tell me, and I used to go drive past regularly, so I see them there late at night doing it. But they've done a fantastic job, and it just looks really modern, really nice, and I think it'll be great for the future of the Serbian Centre, and I'm sure you'll all be invited there soon enough to see it all yourselves. So it looks really, really good. So the other thing is that at the annual electors meeting earlier this year, former Mayor, Mrs Owen Searle, asked if we could verify if she was the longest serving female councillor in Western Australia. And pleased to confirm that she is and was the longest serving female councillor in Western Australia. She served for 40 years at the City of Gosnells, which is amazing effort. And of those 40 years, 9 years she served as Mayor. So we thank her for her service once again and congratulated her on officially being the longest serving female councillor in Western Australia. So that's fantastic. That is all I have. Thank you. Moving on, reports of delegates. Reports of delegates? No, thank you. We'll now move on to question time for the public and the receiving of public statements. So first of all, question time, and I have Mr Leon Walker. And we don't have too many questions this evening, Mr Walker, so you can ask all of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Does the Local Government Act, any regulation empowered by the Act, or any local law mandate that a questioner cannot name a councillor in a question?
No, it does not.
Thank you. Did the Mayor advise me immediately prior to the last OCM that she would not allow two of my questions because they included the name of a councillor, i.e. Councillor Dewhurst?
Yes, I did.
Thank you. Do the minutes of previous OCMs record that Councillor Dewhurst has asked a variety of questions given on notice, which included the names of Leon Walker and then Councillors Pierre Yang and Olwen Searle, which were not disallowed by the Mayor of the day?
Mr Walker, that is possible, but we wouldn't have a record of that right here, right this moment, so we could take that on notice.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Is the decision of the Mayor to not allow two of my questions at the last OCM, in fact, or arguably in fact, ultra vires?
I know it goes to the nature of the questions, Mr Walker. Your next question.
Thank you. Of the $171,175 budgeted to demolish the old restaurant and reception centre at Carrican, what are the committed funds of $72,618 being used for?
Thank you for your question, and Director for Infrastructure will respond. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll have to take that on notice. I don't have that information.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. The next questions I have from Leah Sislak. Leah, if you'd like to come forward, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Question 1. Can I apologise to Mr Glover for one of my questions from the OCM of the 13th of May?
Sure. Did you want to...
Can I do a little thing up? Sorry. I was incorrect about all the trees being cleared. The city has retained the more mature trees that are on the edge of the Wilpon Park site. My apologies, Mr Glover. It will be a very beautiful park and I cannot wait for it to be finished.
Thank you. He accepts your apology, I think.
On page 141 of the agenda, under the reserves, there are budgets for Maddington Road A and Maddington Road B. What are the different budgets for?
Thank you, Mr Bradbrook. No? Yep. Thank you, Mr Bradbrook.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think, I'll call you Leah because I can't pronounce your surname, Leah, is referring to ODP reserves for the Maddington Road Precinct A and Maddington Road Precinct B developer contribution plan areas. So they are developer contribution plans where landowners contribute towards the provision of infrastructure and public open space in those areas.
Okay.
Thank you. Your next question.
Thank you, Mr Bradbrook. The speed signs the city uses, does any data get received to the city as an indication people are adhering to the speed limits?
Mr Glover will answer that question. Thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor, we've actually had quite good success with them. We're not necessarily getting them down to the speed zone, but we're definitely having a reduced speed where we put it, and we do keep a record of all of the data from those.
Thank you, Mr Glover.
Thank you. Thank you. We now move on to public statements, and I have Kylie Webster here. She wishes to speak on item 14.1, which is on 230 of the agenda, which is relating to the proposed drive-in at the cinema at Harmony Fields. Thank you. No.
Thank you. Good evening. I wanted to thank Councillor Dewhurst for bringing forward the motion tonight. I'm asking that the Council withdraw its support for the proposed drive-in cinema at Harmony Fields. I appreciate that there are many who like the idea of a drive-in. However, the proposed location is not appropriate for a drive-in of the proposed scale. Similar sized drive-ins on the East Coast are located in industrial areas or are otherwise well buffered from residential areas. I also appreciate that there were some concerns about what message might be sent by withdrawing support. However, the idea was supported before any community consultation was undertaken and before the full scale of the proposal was tabled. The petition presented to Council in February had over 1,200 signatures requesting that Council support for the proposal be withdrawn. Concerns raised during community consultation included the following: vehicle access, including an over 500% increase in traffic on some sections of public road; scale of development, with 4 basketball court-sized screens and over 800 car bays; lack of visual and acoustic screening; vegetation loss and contribution to urban heat, with aerial imagery showing approximately 180 trees within the development footprint, including black cockatoo habitat trees; compatibility with adjacent residential area, noting that the ring road for this proposal is just 25 metres from people's bedrooms; loss of over a third of the public open space at Harmony Fields, an intrusion into the sports oval and dog park; and the lived experience from the previous single-screen drive-in on Della Road, which resulted in heavy traffic and associated noise, particularly at the end of screening sessions, and had many instances of heavy accelerating, speeding and hoon behaviour in subsequent police reports. The proponent has not responded to the city's request for further information to address these concerns. Instead, we have been advised that the proponent is looking at an alternative location, and it is expected that the proponent will withdraw the application. However, the proponent is yet to officially do so, and they have already received 2 extensions from MODAP, and they can continue to request extensions. The ongoing information void and uncertainty is eroding public trust. Please end the uncertainty by withdrawing council support. Harmony Fields is a popular area of public open space, accessible to all, and the proposed drive-in is inconsistent with the character of our neighbourhood and incompatible with the recreational and residential amenity we currently enjoy. Withdrawing council support for the drive-in will give us the opportunity to create something truly special that celebrates and enhances our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There are no other public statements, so we move on to the confirmation of the minutes. Thank you, Councillor Dewhurst. Can I get a seconder? Councillor Lloyd, thank you. Councillors, any questions on the minutes? No? Councillors, will you please cast your vote? Thank you. Thank you. That has been carried. Move on to the receiving of petitions and presentations. Councillor Dewhurst, thank you.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Look, it's a bit of a weird petition, but I'd asked them not to put it in because I'm quite sure how we'd actually do it. But the people up around Martin have asked me to petition the council to actually thank them in regards to the fire mitigation strategies that they've been working along all the roads, Canning Mills Road, Douglas Road, and all the fire mitigation work that they've been doing. So I just said to them, I'll just bring it up to and make it an announcement, maybe it should be an announcement or whatever, but that they are very appreciative of. It looks really good. It's not destructive to the bush or anything like that, but it's also going to save lives as well. So they just wanted me to relay that information to council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dewhurst. We'll consider that a presentation. Are there any other petitions or presentations, councillors? No, thank you. Are there any applications for leave of absence? No, thank you. We now move on to questions of which due notice has been given. And Councillor Dewhurst, if you would like to ask your questions, and I ask you to remain standing while you receive the responses. Thank you.
I just wanted to put on notice that I really wanted to ask all the questions and sit down, but I understand the advice you've given me to ask one question and wait for that, so I'll do it that way.
Thank you.
Question 1. Did the city have an official opening of the youth entertainment space? Yes, at the Sutherlands Park on the 14th of May 2025.
Thank you. Mr CEO will be responding to these questions.
Thank you.
The answer is yes.
Was a member of Southern River, Terry Healy, invited to that event?
Yes.
Was the city's contribution towards the yes? What was the city's contribution towards yes, and what contribution was received from the state government?
The city contributed around $5 million, while we received a state government grant of $2 million.
Did Terry Healy organise his own separate opening of yes on Friday the 16th of May 2025?
Yes.
Is a person required to obtain approval from the city to hold an event on the city property?
Yes.
Did Terry Healy obtain any approvals required by the city?
No permits were sought or given for the event.
Are members of the Parliament exempt from requirement to obtain approval to hold any event on city property?
No.
Did the city receive any complaints about rubbish being scattered around the yes after Terry Healy's event? Oh, I did too. Sorry. What is the purpose of requiring people to obtain approval to hold events on the city property?
The purpose is to allow the city to coordinate the use of its facilities so that there aren't conflicts between users or double bookings, and to allow it to ensure there are sufficient bins and toilets for the expected number of attendees.
Did the city receive any complaints about rubbish being scattered around the yes after Terry Healy's event?
There were some complaints about rubbish around yes on the Saturday after the event. However, we don't know if the rubbish was left by people attending that event or by other users of the facility. However, because of the popularity of yes, the city has been installing additional bins on site.
Is there a penalty that could be imposed on a person for failing to obtain approval to hold an event on city property?
A person could be issued with an infringement notice for not obtaining a permit. However, the city generally wouldn't impose a penalty for a first breach. The city normally tries to educate rather than penalise people in relation to local laws.
In promoting his own opening of the Yes, did Terry Healy have the courtesy of acknowledging the city as the major financial contributor and the agency that managed and delivered the project?
A marketing material that the city has seen mentioned that the city contributed towards the facility but didn't say how much.
Has the city experienced a level of disrespect and contempt shown by Terry Healy in relation to his own opening of the Yes from any other member of Parliament at either state or Commonwealth level for any other project or initiative?
The city endeavours to work cooperatively and collaboratively with all members of Parliament and generally has a very positive relation with all local members.
Thank you, Councillor Dewhurst. Moving on. There are no items to be brought forward for the convenience of the public gallery, but I will move the item number 13.4 to item number 16 as a confidential matter, as I believe there will be debate on the item. So 13.4 will move down to the confidential matters. Thank you. And reports of committee meetings. Move on to item 13.1, the draft advocacy position for the review of costs and outcomes of building to bushfire attack level ratings. Can I get a mover for that? Councillor Adams to move that and Councillor McDonald to second that. Councillor Adams, would you like to speak to this item? Councillor McDonald, would you like to speak to this item? Would anybody else like to speak to this item? Councillor Dewhurst, thank you.
Thank you. It's this has been a bugbear, these BEL assessments for people moving into residential properties. It's been actually a significant increase in costs. An example would be if I was moving onto Road A, off Road A, and we got some bush across the road that was only be there for 12 months. I could have a significant expense onto my property. So having an advocacy such as this to see common sense is, I must take the hat off to the city for actually organising this, putting it through, and I wish you all the luck. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dewhurst, and I guess it's well timed. Councillor Betts, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think it's worth putting on record that the minimum level of extra cost per house with a low BAL rating is about $13,000. So for people to have to add an extra $13,000 to the build cost of their home when the bush next door or across the road is going to be removed in the next 18 months as the development progresses is simply unfair to those people who purchased that land. And we've had that situation with the Glenariff estate in Canning Vale, where the public open space was owned by a person who didn't want to develop, and so the bush was there and people were being created the problem of having to meet BAL standards, which doesn't really serve any useful purpose to the community. So I commend the CEO on putting this advocacy position, and I hope that we can get some common sense to prevail. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Betts. And I just wanted to add to this is that recently I had a meeting with a property owner in the area, and I wonder if Mr. Talentire might be, Mr. Terralink, sorry, it's been a while since I've done that. Mr. Terralink might be able to give us some understanding of how there are developers in the area that need to take into consideration what might be there in the future for BAL assessments and not just what's there today, which I found really onerous on the landholder of the day of what might be there in the future. Thank you. Sorry to put you on the spot like that.
No, that's okay, Madam Mayor. The guidelines are written with a very single-minded point of view that if development doesn't progress, then that bushfire risk stays, and it stays next to the new homes that have already been built. So developers will often try and broker agreements with the landowners of the next properties along to try and do some clearing. But if they can't do that by agreement, it leaves them with the sticking point, which has really triggered this advocacy paper.
Could I just ask a follow-up question, please? If that neighbouring landowner was had something in place to make that a large bush forever site for revegetation, and that could grow to a BAL 30 or BAL 40 requirement, that's something they'd have to take into consideration too. That's kind of where I was angling with that.
It is, Madam Mayor, and one of the things about Bush Forever is that the sites are well known and understood, and they've been mapped for 30 years or so. So if a developer moves in and they're looking at land which is close to a Bush Forever site, they really should be doing their due diligence and understanding it could have implications for them depending how that site's managed.
Thank you very much. Is there any other questions or debate on this item? No? Thank you, councillors. Will you please cast your vote? Okay, thank you. That has been carried. Now move on to 13.1.2, the Public Open Space Strategy. Can I get a mover for this, please? Councillor Islam to move this. Seconder. Councillor Baines to second this. Councillor Islam, would you like to speak to this item? Councillor Baines? No. Councillors, if you'd like to cast your vote, thank you. I do acknowledge that I didn't ask if there was any further debate, but I didn't see anyone's hand raised, so which is why I went straight to the vote on that one. Thank you. That has been carried. Yes, thank you. I'll now move on to item 13.2.1, the development application for the home business at 8 lot 710 Gundaring Turn, Canning Vale. Can I get a mover? Councillor Dewhurst to move this. Seconder, Councillor Dalton to second this. Councillor Dewhurst, would like to speak to this? Councillor Dalton? Is there any other debate on this item, councillors? No? If you'd like to cast your vote, thank you. Thank you. That has been carried. Now move on to item 13.2.2, the amendment to the Local Planning Policy 2.2, Outbuildings and sea containers in residential and rural zones. Can I get a mover for this, please? Councillor Adams to move this, and a seconder. Councillor Betts to second this. Councillor Adams, would you like to speak to this item? Councillor Betts?
I'd like to speak a bit later.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak to this item? Councillor Dewhurst, thank you.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Look, this is, I want to talk in support of, I have a couple of amendments, but I'll talk in support of it at the moment in regards to this. It's certainly changing out in the rural aspect there in regards to how much sun we're having in summer and what you can put under cover and what's got to be left out of cover. And we've had problems where people have gone to start up their fire units that have been left in the sun and they've blown hoses because they can't put them under cover because they haven't got big enough roof space to actually put them under cover. We've got certainly a critical issue that's coming into Australia very shortly through the Antarctica, which is the N5H1 influenza. Now that's a bird influenza that's coming into the country, and that has actually already gone across to mammals and animals, and it's killed cows, it's killed decimated sea lions, it's killed tigers in Asia. It's also killed people, and as it develops and goes through, it's going to become quite nasty. Now, obviously, we've been following that very closely with the organisation that I'm with, the environmental organisation I'm with, and but we're also following it in regards to what other countries are doing to actually help protect their animals. So, such as covering up chook pens, duck pens, even building large structures to put their cattle or horses in, so they can move about and not just chuck them in a little aviary. So this has also been brought about also as trying to entice people in the area, in the rural areas, to come in and get retrospectual approval for certain structures that they don't have approval for at the moment. So this is about getting them to come in and say, look, I've got this and I've had this for 20 or 30 years and I'd like to get it. Will they do it? Well, it's a work in order, but it's actually beneficial to them because there has been, through the fires on the East Coast, I know in the southwest here, where infrastructure is actually burnt and insurance companies have not paid out because they haven't been approved by the local council, even though they've been paying for those structures. So this is about protecting them as well. So it's sort of working a fine line. But I had 3 amendments, and the amendment on the blue copy I won't be bringing forward. I'll leave it as that. I like the answer from our Director of Planning, and I think we can work with that, no problems at all. But I will go to the yellow copy first, if I could bring an amendment up. Yellow one first, yep. That a staff recommendation be amended by addition of the following words after the words Appendix 4 of this report, subject to the policy being amended to provide the following. To permit sea containers with a floor area equivalent to the area of an outbuilding allowed on a rural lot, provided the sea containers are screened from view from adjoining properties or the street. And the reason, I just need a second for that. Yeah. The reason for this is the policy aims to preserve the amenity of the rural area, which we all want to do. If sea containers are screened from view from adjoining properties or the street, then regardless of their number, there will be no impact on amenity. Therefore, they should be permitted without the need to obtain development approval. Yes. So, councillors, I ask you to support this, and the reason I ask you to support it is because the main problem of this is that they are screened from view from adjoining properties on the street. Now, I know the plan has put in there that if someone's got a 1,000 square metre thing, they can have, I can't remember now, 67 sea containers on there, but I mean, realistically, who's going to put 67 sea containers on their property that can't be seen from the street or that can't be actually seen from the neighbours? So my point of view of that is it's just that was just scaremongering in regards to that. But what this is actually trying to do is that as a person who advocates against over-regulation, over-policy and use of less bureaucracy and less red tape, if someone meets certain conditions, and those certain conditions are can't be seen from the street and be screened from the neighbours, if someone can meet those conditions, who cares what they have on their property? And particularly if they can actually build a 1,000 square metre shed on that property. I mean, quite frankly, having a 1,000 square metre shed sitting at 6.5 or 7 metres, I think it is, having sea containers sitting at 3 metres, I mean, no one's going to see it, are they? But people will be able to see the shed. So we've got a lot of government regulation, and one of the things that I have advocated for and always advocate for is that let's not bring bureaucracy into the sake of bureaucracy. Why do we pick 10? You know, it sort of goes back to, you know, the state government turning around saying you can only have 5 firearms. Only takes 1 firearm to kill someone. You know, only takes 1 knife to kill some people. You know, so why actually get a number? Why do we need to say we're going to actually settle on 10? When in fact, I know people have got over 10 on there and you wouldn't even know they've got 10 sea containers or over 10 sea containers on their properties. And I just think it's a fair get, it's a fair go. It's, we should be working with our community. We should not be regulating them. If we don't need to regulate, we don't need to regulate. Yes, there are some conditions in regards to this, and the conditions is it can't be seen from the road, and also screened from the neighbours. If you can fit only 2 sea containers in that area, well, so be it. You know, if you can fit 12 or 14, great. But as long as it's not annoying your neighbours. So I'm just asking councillors to not look at the fact that someone's going to chuck on 67 sea containers on their property, because quite frankly, no one could. Not one property in this. Actually, there is one property that probably can do it, and that's sitting out there in Southern River. So, but no other property can do it by meeting those conditions. So please don't get hung up on that scaremongering in regards to having that. I also think our rural areas are very different to other rural areas along the metropolitan area. Certainly different to Armidale, and there's a lot of differences in there. And I'm sure to take on notice if people go out there and have a look. I do. We're certainly different to Serpentine, Jarrahdale, and we're certainly different to Swan, was mentioned earlier. They have very different uses of their properties. Then obviously the sea containers, you know, to be used for rural and also for agricultural purposes. I mean, that's what you have your sheds for. You can't build a shed for working on cars, doing electrics on cars or anything like that. But you can certainly, people want to have sheds so they can put their animals away, put the hay away, particularly when, like last year, you couldn't find hay anywhere. So, you know, people did find hay and they had to put it all outside because we haven't got big enough sheds up there in our rural areas. So I'd ask you to please support this, councillors. Let's not make this bureaucracy. Let's just make common sense out of this. If I can't see your sea containers, who cares what you have?
Thank you, Councillor Dewhurst. As a seconder, Councillor Gould, would you like to speak to the amendment? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will, although I was actually thinking, now, what am I going to say that he has missed or that I could not comment on? Look, putting it bluntly, I look at the basics of what this is all about, and Councillor Dewhurst has made the point that are you causing any harm and less bureaucracy? To me, that's the key issues, is that are you causing any harm by having a sea container on your property, and if nobody can see it and it's doing nothing wrong, then why have to apply for anything to come to council? So I'll leave my remarks short on that point. Whilst we could be argued as unique in a number of areas, the city of Gosnells, we're not totally unique. You know, we've got a lot of similarities with other local governments, but this is, to me, a step in the right direction. The last thing I want is somebody going, I have to apply for council for this. I'm thinking, why? Is it doing something useful? Is it going to cost money, and is it wasting people's time? My answer would be yes. So I support it for those reasons.
Thank you, Councillor Good. Councillor Betts?
Madam Mayor, I have some concerns with this amendment because while it says submit the sea containers with the floor area equivalent for an outbuilding that are screened from view from adjoining properties or the street, what happens when the vegetation that's providing that screening gets burnt down? That means the person has to remove their shipping containers. I think that really creates an issue. We had the situation recently, I understand, where we gave commercial vehicle permission for or approval for parking of a commercial vehicle. Council went in and did a footpath, cut some trees down, and oops, the vehicle now is no longer screened from the road. So I think we do need to just take that into account. And if we don't approve this amendment, it doesn't mean that a person can't have up to 67 sea containers on their property. It just means that it's got to come to council first. And if we deem it appropriate in the circumstances, we can still approve it. So the only issue is it for staff to have the deemed to be able, or have the delegated authority to be able to approve it without it coming to council, that's the issue. But I think for something as massive as having a large number of sea containers on a property where there is potential for later on for them to become exposed, I think that really should come to council. That would be my view. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Betts. Councillor Williamson?
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Sorry, Deputy Mayor Williamson, sorry.
It's okay, thank you. I agree with Councillor Betts' comments that once these sea containers are there, you don't know what is going to happen around it and what is the visual. But the flip side of that as well is to place a sea container, to place 67 sea containers requires quite a bit of clearing on these lots. So the reason people move to the rural residential area is because they are there for the environment and that rural amenity. If we are then allowing clearing to put these temporary structures in place, we're starting to degrade the area. We're starting to degrade the amenity regardless of whether you can see it or not. There may be animals in there. There may be birds that use those trees, those sea containers. And let's face it, sea containers are designed to be temporary. They're not permanent fixtures. So it's a very different story. Someone building a huge structure is going to be very, very costly. They're going to put in a lot of planning and prep work to ensure that that building is going to stand for quite a long time and it's going to be placed in a suitable area. Where if it's a sea container, they could quite easily bring it in, move it around. They clear one area, don't like it there, clear a different area, put it in a different one. Before you know it, the block is mostly cleared. So I think Councillor Betts has pointed out that we're not saying you can't have that many sea containers. We're just saying you need to still apply so we can look at that application on merit. We're not just going to give you free rein to do anything above and beyond what would be considered reasonable. We've already stretched what we considered reasonable before, that we're not going to go as far to say do whatever you like up to this massive amount. So we're considering the impact of the environment as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson. I'm just going to enter into the debate. I just have a couple of questions first. Mr Terrelink, would you be able to tell me if screening can be something other than vegetation for sea containers and what that might be?
Madam Mayor, you would usually have another structure to screen, a structure. So those things are generally different to what you'd expect in a rural area. Large agricultural style sheds and open fences and vegetation are the sorts of things that would be expected. So the aim of the policy is to try and balance those amenity expectations with reasonable flexibility. And then if somebody wants to do more than the norm, which is, you know, quite a few sea containers or a really big shed, then they should come forward and put their proposal on merit. So that's the aim, because if you start putting structures in front of other structures to screen them out, it could arguably become even more non-rural in appearance than it started off.
Okay. I've been through this myself recently, so I know what the rigmarole is to get a sea container permit, right? So you don't just have to get building up. This is about getting the planning application for it, the development application for it. You still have to have a building permit. So it means you're not allowed to put that on the property, technically, until you've got your building permit. Now, when you go through getting your building permit, you have to put in concrete footings and you have to put tie-downs on them. They're not to be temporary. If you're saying they're to be there, they're not to be moved around. There's a high wind rating in Orange Grove, so you have to have the high level of wind rating. So it's actually quite expensive to implement a sea container on a block. So it's not a fun process, and to make sure you've got all the engineering, all the drawing and all the building permits for it is something extra you have to do regardless of this development application. Having said that, I can visualise where you might have 7 or 8 sea containers. They've all got to have their tie-downs all down the concrete, but you could have a structure around it, screens it, that makes it look like a shed, which is why I'm kind of leaning towards supporting this. I can see there's pros and cons to it. Yeah, look, we have been quite lenient with what you can have on the blocks already, as far as you can have up to 10, what have we got here? Up to 10 sea containers on over 2 hectares, and 6 sea containers over 2 hectares, and 4 sea containers on up to 2,400. But just keeping, and I realise I'm going all over the place because I'm trying to get my own decision on this, as far as this is only if it can't be seen from the road or screened from the adjoining properties. So if there was a complaint, and that would come about when they put their building permit in, that they have to get permission from their neighbours to have those on the block. And if the neighbours had a problem with it, then is where you could put the rules in to say you've got to have this, that and the other for building permits. So I think for those reasons I'll be supporting this amendment. Thank you. Carry on with debate, if there's any further debate. Yes, thank you, Councillor Betts.
Just for clarification, if this amendment goes through, if a person wanted to put, say, 20 sea containers on their property, they would not need to apply for a development application, is that correct? Or do they still need to apply for a development application, but the staff can, on delegated authority, approve it? And do they still need a building permit as well, just to clarify that?
I could answer that, but I'll let Chris answer it if this goes through. Sorry, Mr Terrelink.
Thank you, I think, Madam Mayor. You wouldn't need to get planning approval. The need for building approval for sea containers often arises most critically when you try and convert them in future to other things. So that can be to make them look better, but then they start to become a permanent structure, and that's when they're assessed and they're caught up in the building permit and the engineering process. So there's a couple of answers there. So you wouldn't need planning approval. If they were temporary sea containers, they might be okay, but once you start doing things with them, putting lean-tos on or anything like that, they technically would need permits.
All right.
Have you got a further question, Councillor Betts? Maybe I'll ask that question.
I'm thinking on my feet a little bit here, but I guess what we want to avoid is a situation where a person, if this goes through, if the person says, no, they're only temporary, they could actually put 20, 30 shipping containers on their pallet.
Sorry, you are kind of entering a bit of a debate. Can you get a question?
Would that be permissible without needing any referral to council or to council staff to get approval?
Thank you, Mr Terrelink.
I think technically people need to talk to our building surveyors about what they're going to do and how, because wind rating and those issues do become significant. So the team are as lenient as they can be, but if they look like It's kind of, if it floats like a duck and looks like a duck, it's probably a duck. If it's going to look like it's going to become permanent, it's assessed that way. So we would try to avoid any unnecessary bureaucracy if we could.
Thank you.
One question, please, Mr. Terrelink. In this policy, it talks about sea containers in residential zones, and that you can have one there up for 14 days without planning approval, or you can have one up for up to 12 months without obtaining a building permit. Is that right? Yes. Would that be the same in a rural area?
Madam Mayor, those provisions are intended to help people that might be building a home or something like that. And if somebody had a similar situation in a rural area, then we would apply similar logic.
But one would think, sorry, question again, one would think that you couldn't put 50 sea containers there and say they're temporary.
People might suggest that they want to have 50 temporary sea containers, and that might become an interesting report for the council's consideration rather than my guys.
Yes. Okay. Is there any further debate or questions on this item? Councillor Dewhurst, a question. You also have the right to close.
Yeah, I was under the impression that no matter how many sea containers you actually wanted on the property, you still needed a permit to come to council first. I was always under the impression that was always the way, that council would be notified first through that permit process.
Thank you. And Mr. Terrelink, would you be able to respond? Thank you.
Madam Mayor, in short, if they're temporary, we try not to go through the permit process, but if they're more than temporary, then we probably would. Okay.
Thank you. If you'd like to close your debate.
No, I'm sorry, I'm still confused. Not we would like to, or the actual act, or whatever we're going to call this policy, is that if you want to put sea containers on your property, you've got to get yourself a permit to council first. That's what's supposed to happen, isn't it? That's what we want residents to do. Am I correct or not?
Thank you. And again, that's on you, Mr. Terrelink. Thank you.
It is, Madam Mayor. Look, these amendments, I first got notice of these at 3 this afternoon and didn't contemplate these questions, so I haven't been able to talk to the coordinator of our building team between then and now. But I'd still stand by the earlier advice.
Okay. Thanks, Madam Mayor. Look, I'll close. Yep.
On the amendment, yes, thank you.
Okay, I'll close on this then. Look, councillors, I'd like to thank everybody for making their contribution to this, but I think we're missing something here that, you know, we're throwing out there, what happens if the fire goes through? What happens if, you know, there's a zombie apocalypse? You know, or what happens if this happens that? Well, if your fire goes through and burns your trees down, well, plant some. That's what you've got to do. I mean, you can't sit here and say, what happens if this happens? What if that happens? That happens all the time. You know, in regards to every planning decision we make, we could all stand up and say, what if this happens? What if that happens? Let's not support this. Nothing will get done in the city. And to think that anyone, and if you've driven, if the people who've actually got knowledge in our rural areas, who think anyone could have any more than 20 sea containers on their property without being seen by neighbours or by the road, you haven't been driving around our rural areas. You just can't do it except for one property. I mentioned that property before. So let's not get caught up in what ifs and all that sort of stuff. Let's trust our community. Let's put trust in them to do the right thing. I want them to do the right thing. I want them to be covered under insurance. I want them to actually trust our city. Let's put some trust back in them to do the right thing. I want people to come forward with respectful approvals for their stuff they've got on their properties. This is about helping our community. So I appreciate the comments that have been made, but I have to object them outrightly, because you just can't sit here and fly off the hip like a gunslinger and throw things and all the risks. So, Madam Mayor, councillors, I just ask you to support this and put trust in our rural community. Do the right thing, because I personally, and I'm sure others have too, been working very hard in that space to get these people to come forward and get respectful approval. So they are covered. Let's work with the people, councillors, and not create undue bureaucracy and scaremongering.
Thank you, Councillor Betts. Councillors, if you could please cast your vote on the amendment. Thank you. Thank you. That has been carried. We'll now move back to the original item again. Is there any further debate on the Councillor Dewhurst? Thank you.
We've got one more amendment here. Okay, subject to, the staff recommendation by amendment by the addition of the following words after the words Appendix 4 of the report, subject to the policy being amended to provide the following. The exclusion of outbuildings with an area of 20 square metres or less from the calculation of the total area of outbuildings on site. Get a seconder?
Seconder, Councillor Dewhurst seeking a seconder. Thank you, Councillor.
Okay,
thank you.
So on rural properties, 20 square metres is not very big. You can just put a car underneath there, okay? You can just put it, small outbuildings such as garden sheds or sheds to garage a single car should be excluded from the calculation of the total area of outbuildings on a rural property. Councillors, I ask you to support this, and you're thinking, well, you know, do we really want to do it? Well, let's just think this through. Again, fire mitigation strategies. You've got people up in Seneca, on Seneca Street there, who are putting fire tanks up on top of a hill. They want to put a structure over it, because they're plastic fire tanks. They want to put a structure over them that can catch water and go into the tanks. You need 20 square metres to actually do that. People want to be able to park fire units at different places, fire trailers on a place that's away from the outbuilding so they can get to it and away from any vegetation. And they want to put them underneath these things. 20 square metres is not very big, councillors. It's such a small area. It's just we've already got it from the. Sorry, no, we don't have it in that. But it's just a progressive approach that our council could take to understand those needs of the people living in the rural areas. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Dewhurst. Councillor Betts, did you want to speak to this item? As a seconder? Would anybody else like to speak to this item, councillors? Sorry, I have a question, Mr Terrelink. Would this 20 square metre item still require a building permit?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
And do you require a building permit for 10 square metres?
The National Construction Codes exempt people for structures of less than 10 square metres.
And with our other policy that we've got going out to consultation, have we mentioned anything about the 20 square metre? Is that something that we could change under our policy for not having a building permit? Sorry, I'm not advocating for change, I'm just curious if that's included.
Madam Mayor, the Council's got discretion to make planning policy and amend because it comes under the scheme, but you don't have the power under legislation to amend the requirements of the National Construction Code.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, happy to support this amendment. I'm really not sure it's needed, but I'm happy to support it. Thank you. Is there any further debate on this amendment, councillors? Thank you. If you'd like to cast your vote. Or did you want to close, Councillor Dewhurst? Thank you. Thank you. That has been carried. We'll now go back to the original item and put the two amendments together with the original item. Is there any further debate on the original item? No, councillors, if you'd like to cast your vote on the original item, which is together with those two amendments. Thank you. Thank you. That has been carried. Okay, moving on to item 13.3.1, the Sutherlands Park Masterplan. Can I get a mover for this, please? Councillor Islam to move this and Councillor Dalton to second this. Councillor Islam, would you like to speak to this item? Councillor Dalton, would you like to speak to this item? I have an amendment for this item, and it reads as follows, that the staff recommendation be amended by the inclusion of the following additional part, that Council requests the Chief Executive Officer to list a discussion on splash at elected member workshop for the following reason. The City was unsuccessful in obtaining commitments to contribute funding required for the development of splash from either of the major parties in the lead up to the state or federal elections. At a cost of approximately $130 million, the City could not build splash without significant funding from the state or federal governments. The level of funding is unlikely to be secured outside of election campaigns. Obviously that's not a given, but it's unlikely. And given the lack of state and federal government support for the project, the City needs to review its position on splash and consider options to provide the community with access to new leisure and aquatic facilities. Can I get a seconder for this, please? Councillor Good's happy to second that. Thank you. Yes, just speaking on from that, I wasn't comfortable with passing a master plan and then in the future probably in the near future, having a conversation about what's in Splash when it's already in this master plan. We're going to be, adopting this again tonight. So I wanted to have a discussion about Splash and the fact that we don't have the funding from the state and federal government. And in my personal view, it wouldn't be fair to put all of that extra money onto the ratepayers to pay for such a facility. So, councillors, I think we need to go back and have a look at what our options are, and that can be done through way of a workshop, which may lead to further community consultation. So, councillors, I ask you to support my amendment on this. As a seconder. Councillor Good, would you like to speak to this amendment? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The bottom line being is we can't put our heads in the sand, so I'm totally supportive of the amendment. We have to relook at how we're doing things here. The funding from both state or federal is just not available. As much as I would love Splash and I would love to get basically $50 million from a federal or state government and build this $130 million beautiful area, it's perfect for it. It should be done, but the fact is, even I have to say, it's not probably likely. So if we don't redo and rethink how we actually build and how we do aquatic facilities, nothing will ever happen. And if we can't get support from state and federal, we have to come back to the table and go, well, what can we do to improve? Because, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. CEO or Director of Business Services, our population is about 141,000 now, and we're growing, and yet the most obvious solution is to build a pool, build an aquatic centre and build it at Sutherlands. But if we can't get the support, we have to go, what are the alternatives? So I suggest, yes, we do that, do your amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Good. Is there any further debate on the amendment, councillors? Just in closing, and for those listening in the gallery, SPLASH is an acronym for the Sutherlands Park Leisure, Aquatic and Sports Hub, which is our hope to build a state-of-the-art aquatic centre with outdoor pool, indoor pool, hydrotherapy pools, learn-to-swim pools, as well as a basketball stadium, but we can't do it without the help of the state and federal government. So we'll go back to the drawing board if this amendment is supported to see what we can do. So, councillors, I ask you to cast your vote on the amendment, please. Thank you. That has been carried. We now put the amendment back with the original item. So you're happy to... So you want to speak on the original item? Thank you, Councillor Dewhurst. Wasn't the mover on it, was he? No. Thank you. You speak to it. Thank you.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Look, I do have to apologise to the Director of Infrastructure. I was supposed to ask his questions at the workshop to give him some notice, but I totally forgot about it. And so if you can't answer them, I do appreciate it. So, but it comes with a question first, then I'll make a comment afterwards. Up at the Sutherlands Oval in regards to the cricket nets, I'm led to believe that the nets are actually going to be in a row of 12. Is that right?
Thank you, Director Glover. Do you understand the question? I'll say that because I'm not sure I do.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I understand there is a proposed upgrade to the nets into the future. Whether there's 12 or 10, I'm not really sure.
Okay. Look, I'll talk just on the scenario that there is 12. So I've been contacted by by some parents whose kids go there, and they've been talking about, and also people. One person who said they've seen the plans out there, and the row of 12 cricket nets they are quite objecting to, and the reason they're objecting to it is because the Australian standards from the Cricket Association, the Cricket Association standards say that you can have no more than 6, and the reason that is it's because of safety. So if you've got a row of 12 nets sitting along there, and saying if we do or we don't, we can find out that people are smashing these balls, and the person who sits right in the middle has to walk past all those nets to get in there to go into that net. It becomes quite dangerous. Bearing in mind, if you have 12 there, you've got juniors out there and you've got seniors sitting out there as well. You could have 10-year-olds batting and bowling, and you could have adults right next to them slapping that hard leather cricket ball and knocking a few people about. Ideally, the net should be a three. If we're having 12 nets, having a 3 set of 4, it's a lot safer. It's recommended that most of the nets they go up. It only sits in rows of 4s, even though Cricket Australia says 6 is okay. But you really do not want to have kids and people walking past those nets when people are actually smashing those balls. It just becomes very dangerous, not only for the people that are walking past to who are batting, but also for bowling and fielding and even the coach who stands there as well. So, I mean, I think you can dodge out of 4, but dodging out of 12, I don't think that's appropriate. So I would like to ask that we have a look at this, if we can have a chat about it in regards to with your team, if possible, and see if there's something else that we can come up with, if in fact that's what's happening.
Sorry, 1 second. Yeah. The CEO said that we're happy to look at it and you don't need to do an amendment on it because they can take on notice what you've said, and the master plan's not at this stage, so there's opportunity for advocacy on that. Is there any further debate on this item, councillors? Okay, if you'd like to cast your vote then, thank you. Thank you, that has been carried. Move on to 13.2.2, the Switch Your Thinking Business Plan for 2025-26 to 2029-2030. Can I get a mover for this, please? Councillor Zhang to move this and Councillor Singh to second this. Councillor Zhang, would you like to speak to this item? Councillor Singh? Would anybody else like to speak to this item? No? Councillors, if you'd like to cast your vote, thank you. Thank you, that has been carried. Moving on to item 13.3.3, the dust and sand drift measures for the Southern River Business Park. Can I get a mover for this, please? Councillor McDonald to move this and seconded by Councillor Dalton. Councillor McDonald, would you like to speak to this item? Councillor Dalton, would you like to speak? Would anybody else like to speak to this item? Sorry, I just have a quick question then. If this item is adopted tonight, Mr. Glover, Director for Infrastructure, when would the installation of the dust control fence along Southern River occur? Thank you.
Chair, Madam Mayor, as soon as possible, but I'll provide you with a more succinct response tomorrow.
Couple of weeks.
I would hope within 2 weeks.
Thank you, Mr. Glover. Councillors, is there any further questions or debate on this item? No, if you'd like to cast your vote, thank you. Thank you, that has been carried. We're moving the item 13.4.1 to the confidential items at the end. So we'll now move on to 13.5.1, the financial activity statement. Can I get a mover for this? Councillor Lloyd to move this and seconded by Councillor Good, thank you. Councillor Lloyd, have you got any questions on this? Councillor Good? No. Councillors, any questions or debate on this item? If you could cast your vote, thank you. Thank you. That has been carried. 13.5.2, the payment of accounts. Can I get a mover for this, please? Councillor Islam to move this and seconded by Councillor Baines. Thank you. Councillor Islam, would you like to speak to this item? No. Councillor Baines? Would anybody else like to speak to this item? No. Thank you. If you'd like to cast your votes, thank you. Thank you. That has been carried. Moving on to item 13.5.3, the budget variation for adjustment to capital budgets. Can I get a mover for this? Councillor Good to move this and seconded by Councillor Dewhurst. Thank you. Councillor Good, would you like to speak to this item? Councillor Dewhurst, would anybody else like to speak to this item? No? Thank you. Please cast your votes. I was going to carry it without your votes then. Thank you. That has been carried. Item 14.1, the drive-in cinema complex at Harmony Fields. Councillor Dewhurst, I'm going to assume that you'll be wanting to move this item since it's your motion. Thank you. Can I get a seconder for this item? Councillor Dalton, thank you. Councillor Dewhurst, would you like to speak to this item?
I don't need to read it, do I? The motion? You don't want me to read the motion, or I'm just happy to go into chat?
No,
okay, great.
It's in the agenda, that's fine, everyone.
Okay, look, just putting it very plainly, Madam Mayor, is that this drive-in going there has certainly upset a lot of the community members, certainly upset us because we didn't know it was going to go out there as councillors, and it was sort of like a shot in the arm. But that particular location is not a great location. I believe it's environmentally irresponsible for us to do that. We've got to do some amazing things there in that particular plot of land. I certainly take on board the traffic chaos that would happen at the end of and at the start of movies and that, and I would not want to live there. I would not even want to visit anyone there during those periods. So I can certainly feel that. And the third thing is mainly is the community stress this has taken. Now we've given the proponent opportunity to withdraw this, and I was hoping they'd withdraw it before tonight, so I didn't have to bring this motion up tonight, but they haven't. So therefore, I ask councillors to support the motion, support the community. Let's put this to bed. So these guys, so we don't have to have, and I'll say this in a good way, the likes of Kylie coming here every Tuesday night to find out what's going on, Darren coming here and others as well, you know. They got better things to do on their Tuesday nights than hoping to find out what's going to go on there. So let's put it to bed. Let's say goodbye to Kylie and Darren in a nice way. And then, let's let them move on with their lives. So I ask you to support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dewhurst. Would anybody else like to speak to this item? I'm happy to speak to this item. I'm happy to support your motion, but I just wanted to give some context for the background of it, in that the city is always looking for ways to reduce rates revenue in the city, and the intention of this was, I didn't actually expect it to be so big as well myself, so that's one thing, but the intention of this was to provide some rate revenue to the city, and which was in the vicinity of about $100,000 a year, which over 20 years would be a significant amount towards the city, which would be $2 million. So I do understand that the local residents were caused angst about this, but I do want to point out that there is potential that there's something else could happen on that block in the future, so I don't want anyone to go away from here thinking that there might never be, that it'll always be bushland, because that might not be the case. So there could be other uses for that area. It may not be a drive-in at this stage, but there could be other things. So I don't want anyone to think that it's now all just going to be public open space forever, because as the city grows, everything grows, that there is potential for that land. There might be some subdivisions that occur there, or there could be other things that happen on that massive open space that we have, which is so close to the Perth CBD area. So I just wanted to make sure that that was clear to anyone that was in the room tonight. Councillors, is there any further debate or questions on this item? Councillor Dewhurst? You'll be closing, thank you.
You know, Madam Mayor, as you were explaining that, my heart was sort of beating a bit fast in my chest here, thinking that these guys are going, oh my God, what's coming? Well, there's nothing coming. Make that
I
very
don't know,
clear.
I don't want them to be, you know.
Well, not at the moment, we can't see anything coming there at all, but we did, at the committee meeting, which Councillor McDonald and Councillor Dalton attended, I'm not sure anyone else attended, but there was a community meeting out there and we spoke about it, and we certainly made it, the three of us made it very, very clear that whatever expenditure goes onto that property, onto that land, has to be generated from that land. We cannot expect ratepayers from Canning Vale and all the other areas to contribute for that bit of land there. And that was well understood. And when I say that, you look very confused, Madam Mayor, but you know, we've done this before around the city. Robinson Park's a prime example, where we've actually we've carved a little bit off for housing. The profits from that there went into that in that Robinson Park. We could do that at Harmony Fields, and we spoke about it that day, and no one had an issue with that. And so that's the sort of thing that I'd like to see that actually happen there, where we can actually put that money back into that, and where we can make it something very special. Harmony Fields has been like that for many, many years. I used to play golf on it, used to ride my motorbikes across it, chased by the rangers, you know. But not no more, I don't do it anymore. Well, not this year anyway. So I'd just like to say that, I'm supporting this, knock it on the head, and I'll take you what you've said on what you've said, but the community is well aware that whatever we spend on there has got to be generated from there as well. And there will certainly be good community consultation, and I think we'll probably get the best ideas from our community what we can do there. So I look forward to that in the future.
First, councillors, if you could cast your vote on the motion, thank you. Thank you, that has been carried. Thank you. Okay, there is no urgent business, but I will seek a mover to close the council meeting for the confidential item. Thank you, Councillor Dalton, seconded by Councillor Baines. If you cast your vote on closing the meeting for the confidential item, thank you. Thank you, that has been carried. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we will ask you to kindly leave. You can wait outside if you like until the meeting's finished, but thank you very much for attending this evening. Stay safe, stay warm, and thank you very much to our cadets for coming along. It's great to see you.